She was since 1996, representing Colorado Springs for 17 plus years. 1997, founding member of TSF, the Springs Finest. 2003, founding member of SMK, Soul Mechanics Crew. 2010, became a member of TBB, Denver Chapter, the Bronx Boys Rocking Crew. 2012, became a member of the DC Spin Masters. Put your hands together for B-Boy Reach. Next up, we have DeAndre Carroll. Okay, I'll do what I can. DeAndre Carroll is a choreographer, teacher, and performer specializing in dances of the African diaspora, including West African, Afro-Caribbean, and hip-hop. He has performed in commissioned works by Chuck Davis, C.K. Gagnon, I can't pronounce that one, James Yarbrough, and Maestas. DeAndre has been a dance soloist with CNC Music Factory, been a guest artist with Motion Underground's Boulder Hip Hop Festival, as well as taught collaborative workshops for the Colorado Dance Festival with the Philadelphia-based Tony Harris Pure Movement and the African American Dance Ensemble. His teaching and performance experience included hip-hop masterclass in the People's Republic of China with the Beijing Modern Dance Company, performances for President Bill Clinton and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. He is currently the director of the Funkinetic Project, an organization dedicated to developing community through urban dance, education, and teaching leadership through the arts. I did it though. All right. Last but not least, we have Larry Southall. All right. Larry Southall holds an MFA in performance and choreography from the University of Colorado. A native of the Bronx, New York, he began working with hip-hop dance forms in the early 1980s. He has worked with the Boulder Ballet, the Harambe African Dance Ensemble, Blue Moon Dance Company, Motion Underground, Longmount Symphony and Dance Theater, Denver School of the Arts, and Steamboat Springs Dance Theater, and has served as a master teacher at Dance Place in Washington, D.C., at Slippery Rock University, and for the American College Dance Festival. Larry has choreographed for the Native Tongue Dance Theater, Skeleton Dance Project, the Black College Dance Exchange, and the Legacies concert of the American College Dance Festival in Boulder, Colorado, and is respected nationally as one of the great traditional hip-hop teachers. Put your hands together. All right, so as I stated earlier, you weren't allowed to film any of the dance performances. You are allowed to film this Q&A panel. You are allowed to post it. We also hire someone to come in and film it, and we post it on our YouTube. I have no problem with you guys posting it as well. Spread knowledge, spread knowledge, spread knowledge. I don't care. It's not about me, it's about you. So, you guys are more than welcome to take clips of this, post them, expose these people, make sure that they get acknowledged, okay? So, again, this is a question and answer. I'm going to hand them the mic. You guys ask questions. They're teachers, they're dancers, they're also mentors. So if something's on your heart, just ask it.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right. When did y'all start seeing the Colorado dance movement start to grow? Like back in y'all's time?
I'll defer to Reed first. I'll be long, and you guys are like, well, that's good. Just can you pass the mic, please?
First of all, it's an honor being up here with you guys. So,
Honor to be up here.
I represent Colorado Springs in the mid '90s. So, your question of when did I see it really start to beef up?
Yeah.
Well, kind of coincided with what LOF was doing up in Denver. We were kind of doing the same thing, just a little bit behind, I guess, as far as generation. And we all got together. It was more all about all element hip hop. First of all, it was a lot less about b-boying or house dancing or what have you. It was a lot more about all elements. I started writing and breaking and all of it. It was all the same thing. So we had this hip hop shop down there. It was in downtown, and people would just kind of come in and out, get videos, get DJ equipment, whatever. Tribal was just coming out. how to represent my mid-90s tribal today. It just was coming out. Like now, oh, it's probably dead now. Unfortunately, that didn't last very long, but enough group of friends, I think, got together at that point, and we always had a little bit different vibe down in Springs. We had less competition maybe, so we always stuck together, and it was a small movement, but that's when I really started to see it just come together. Saw a couple of kids, older guys actually, at clubs doing windmills and stuff, and it was on from there.
That was in the 90s?
Yeah.
So, also one thing to clarify, Reach mentions LOF, I don't know how many of you know, LOF is Lords of Finesse.
Okay.
All right, cool, just so that we're all on the same page with that. And one other thing I want to say before I answer this question, we're up here as elders, which, I love that you guys give us that kind of respect. And there is a sizable age difference, but, part of what Reach is mentioning here too is that there's a much deeper history of hip hop in Colorado that actually predates us. Like we're of that age, but not that generation, so when we mentioned Lords of Finesse, there's also a group called Dancers Unique, which used to represent the West Side, and those were the cats that were really putting down hip hop in Colorado. Quick Step came to, how many of you guys know who Quick Step is? Came to Colorado and put a lot of those guys, onto hip hop and put them down and created those groups. And so that's how a lot of that came here. My story in it is a little bit different. I've been around to see like a lot of the changes, so kind of to answer your question. I got involved in what I guess began to be like a lot of the Denver Boulder hip hop scene as it looks now, back in about 1993. Just for the record, I'm 42 years old. My history is very similar to JoJo's. I actually started dancing late in life, or at least dancing in this vein late. Like I didn't really start that until I was about 22, 23 years old. But I really started seeing the change and the momentum start to build up, I want to say right around 1994, 95. That's when you actually really started to see more competitions, when studios started really kind of incorporating hip hop into their curriculum, basically into their offerings. Larry was the first hip hop teacher in this generation, in this vein, with this momentum going in Cleo Parker Robinson Dance. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that school. I've been teaching hip hop in Boulder since, I want to say 94, 95. And yeah, then it's like the progression of hip hop in the Denver Boulder area, really kind of started with a studio, like in its vein now, with a studio called Dance West in Boulder. Yeah. And I was one of the hip hop teachers there. There was a guy who was owned and operated by a guy named Lee Klinger. I taught there for a year. Then another guy from Culture Shock, San Francisco, actually predated him. There was a guy named Dante who came out here for what they orchestrated called the Hip Hop Weekends. They used to teach those. And then the next person they brought out was Kenny Jimenez. And so Kenny Jimenez, after teaching a couple of workshops here, decided 6 months later to move here. He and I became friends, and over the course of the next year, quadrupled the enrollment in hip hop at Dance West. He started a group called Millennium 2000, and then they left and went to LA, and he came back here, and then he opened what was Motion Underground in like 1998. So he was really a force for kind of like bringing studio hip hop and street hip hop together. Like there really shouldn't be a distinction, but there really was at the time. He started reaching out to groups like BAK, which is Born Again Kings, who were the predecessors to GWT, putting them in shows.
Boogie Crew.
Pardon me?
Aqua Boogie Crew.
Aqua Boogie Crew. And it's just like, so there were all these cats, there were these crews in Denver, already that were really kind of on the underground, and they were crews that you didn't see unless you actually went to ciphers and b-boy jams and stuff like that. But I think when things started to blow up, to really focus back on your questions, when those two came together. When people in the studio started seeing that there was a bigger culture outside of what they were doing in the studio, and when people on the streets started realizing that their art could take them bigger places than just the ciphers, and just kind of competing with each other. So like right around 94, 95, that was when things started to really kind of roll and build up. It's like I'm gonna yield the mic because I can give you kind of a whole history of how things changed, the perceptions of hip hop changed, and how the momentum started building up from that point on, but I really want Larry to be able to tell his story.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm a transplant. I came to Boulder in '96 to get my MFA from CU Boulder, and before classes started, I was lucky enough to meet Quickstep. He came out here to teach some master classes, Brooklyn, New York, and he introduced me to LOF, and that was like the first b-boy crew I met out here. So back then, when I met those guys, and also GWT, when he was talking about formerly BAK, Ray Maestas, Al Capone, Fate, Dash, Epi, those guys used to take me to jams. Yeah, Lalo, Buckus, many more people. But we used to go to jams everywhere. We drove to Fort Collins, we drove to the Springs, Denver, Boulder, wherever there was a jam, we went. And back then, it was still kind of rough. It still had that rough element to it. So there might be a jam, but afterwards there was a fight in the parking lot. Somebody got socked because they didn't like winning. And what I noticed when I came here and I started meeting different crews, and the scene got bigger, and what changed for me was when I noticed people coming out of state and coming to jams here, Rockers Rumble. Everybody give up for Rockers Rumble? Seeing cats come from New Mexico, Texas, New York, San Francisco, Utah. I was like, yeah, Colorado's arrived. And then leaving, going back home to New York, and I go downtown and people say, well, where do you live at? And I say, well, I'm from New York, but I live in Colorado. Oh yeah, it's going on out there. And I was like, wow, okay, we've arrived. So I consider myself from Colorado. New York's my heart, that's where I'm from, but I live here. And I choose to live here because I love the scene. Sometimes in big cities, you can get lost in finding a scene. And I love being here because there is a scene. You are witness to that.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to say something really quick too, because it's like it's an honor being up here with both of these cats. And I've actually seen Reach at battles since like the 90s, and I've never really actually formally met him until like tonight. So I want to say like he most embodies like from like older heads, like he most embodies like the old school b-boy to me. I used to watch him battles, like I can see that cat battling in New York. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. It's like,